Hey everyone, in this video we're going to be going over all the tanks and their counters so that you can learn to easily swap and tell your teammates how to beat them. But before we get into the video, make sure you check out our website over at GameLeap.com, where we have tons of different guides for all different heroes and maps that go way more in depth than we're going to in this video. If you want to learn everything about Overwatch and easily start ranking up, then you should go and check it out today so that you can dominate in your games. First up, we have D.Va. Her defense matrix is going to be extremely strong against any ranged hero or non-beam hero. Zarya is a simple and effective counter for D.Va on most maps due to Zarya simply being able to shred D.Va through her defense matrix and completely ignore her damage most of the time. Roadhog is another okay counter for D.Va, but isn't really a hard counter, and most of the time you're just going to be able to hook D.Va and burst her down, get her out of mech, and then deal with her from there. Symmetra isn't a hard counter for D.Va, but fills most of the same role as Zarya, being able to damage her very easily and just escape her as well with her teleporter. Sombra is in a similar league with Symmetra. While she doesn't hard counter D.Va, she can quickly shut her down and her flight down with some help from teammates and a hack. And lastly, Moira is great versus D.Va, as D.Va can't really eat Moira's healing from her primary fire, and she can't stop her from damaging D.Va as well. So the only thing that D.Va can kind of do against a Moira is eat your damage in healing orbs, which isn't the worst thing in a world, but it can be kind of annoying. Next up, we have Doomfist. Doomfist is almost too easy to counter with very little. Roadhog is going to be a nightmare to play against as a Doomfist player and is probably going to be his biggest counter. All you have to do is hook Doomfist and chances are that he is going to die. Orisa is another great Doomfist counter. Javelin throw can cancel his block and allow him to get melted extremely fast by your teammates. D.Va is an okay counter to Doomfist, being able to chase him around wherever he goes and pressure him a lot, as well as saving your teammates from his primary fire combo with his punch. You can very easily nullify almost everything he does with D.Va. For DPS, Sombra is an obvious counter to Doomfist, being able to hack him out of his block and melt him down with her teammates. Flying heroes like Pharah are also very hard for Doomfist to deal with, so make sure you try some of those out. For your supports, Ana is going to be great for anti-ing and sleeping Doomfist, but can easily be picked off if she's not careful. Heroes like Baptiste and Kiriko are great versus Doomfist because they both have invincibilities for their teammates, as well as being able to avoid his damage really easily with Baptiste's jump and Kiriko's teleport. Junker Queen is in the same boat as Doomfist, where she is very easy to counter, and in the tank category, Orisa is going to be a great counter for Junker Queen, as Orisa is very tanky. Junker Queen can't really do anything to her, and Orisa is going to out-sustain almost all of the damage Junker Queen does in most fights. Zarya is okay versus Junker Queen, as she can simply nullify most of the damage she does, as well as getting free energy from all of Junker Queen's abilities. Zarya can also nullify Junker Queen's anti-ability from her ultimate, and in the DPS category, almost every hero is going to be strong versus Junker Queen. But high sustained damage and burst damage from heroes like Soldier 76 and Sojourn are going to be really difficult for Junker Queen to deal with. A hard counter in the DPS category is going to be Mei. She has no way to escape Mei's walls and freeze combo, so she is as good as dead if that happens. For supports, Kiriko and Ana will be amazing versus Junker Queen, and Lucio is also great with his speed boost, allowing him and his teammates to just walk away from her whenever she gets aggressive. Orisa is a monster of a hero, and she has very little hard counters. Heroes that are strong against Orisa are heroes that can just ignore Orisa and kill her teammates. After that's done, they can just turn around and deal with Orisa and finally finish her off. Winston, D.Va, and Wrecking Ball are going to be soft counters to Orisa, as they don't have to deal with her at all, and they can just fight her teammates and ignore her. For DPS, almost all snipers are going to be great against Orisa due to their range and ability to burst her down with headshots while she has no defensive ability. Bastion can also be quite strong to burst her down when she has no defensives or when she doesn't have her little spin move. But for supports, any support that can just ignore her and play around her without being melted down or rushed down by her is going to be strong, namely Lucio, Kiriko, Baptiste, Mercy, and Moira. Reinhardt is very similar to Junker Queen, where if he is outranged, it's going to be very hard to do anything. For the tanks, Orisa can be very strong versus Reinhardt. She can eat fire strikes with her spinny ability, easily stopping his pin with her gold ability, and being able to out outmatch his damage, or at least match his damage output by just existing. Another great counter to Reinhardt is dive. So Winston, D.Va, Ball, and Doomfist are pretty good against Reinhardt due to being able to ignore him and fighting his teammates instead. Roadhog can be a semi-counter to Reinhardt if you can catch him with his shield down and pull him into your team, but it's going to be a skill matchup unless the Reinhardt is really bad. For DPS, high sustained DPS against Rein is very, very strong. Heroes like Hanzo, Junkrat, Bastion, Soldier, Reaper, and Sojourn are all strong picks to be able to constantly pressure Reinhardt's shield, as well as focusing Rein whenever the shield is broken. Ana is a really big counter to Reinhardt. She can outrange him pretty much all the time. Her anti-nade is very strong at getting picks on Rein, and against aggressive Reins, her sleep dart can very easily counter his pin. Lucio is another great counter for Reinhardt because speeding you and your teammates away from the enemy Reinhardt is going to make him completely useless. Now, Roadhog is a very, very scary pick right now and can be a completely dominating force in most games. First and foremost, Orisa is going to be a hard counter to Roadhog. She can cancel his hook and his heal with her javelin. Not only that, but she can easily stop people from dying to hook with her little spin move and just getting into Roadhog's face. Orisa can just melt Roadhog from a close range while not having to worry about dying to him with her defensive cooldowns. Other okay counters are Sigma and possibly D.Va, but those are more skill-based matchups, and for DPS, anyone who can outrange Roadhog is great. Heroes like Ashe and Widowmaker for long-ranged damage and burst damage on Roadhog with headshots are great. Hanzo is also good, and other long-range counters or sustained DPS are going to be Soldier and Sojourn. Tracer is another good counter, as most of the time you can plan around his hooks and just wait until he uses his heal before you pulse bomb him to finish him off. Reaper is also pretty good against Roadhog. If you can dodge his hooks with your shift ability, then you will have a really, really easy time melting him. And for supports, Ana and Zenyatta are going to be hard counters. Ana with her anti-nade can completely shut down a Roadhog, and Zenyatta can keep him permanently discorded, and it will be really, really strong at keeping him away from you and your teammates. Sigma is a very weird tank, and he can be easily shut down by taking a lot of damage. Well, that could be said for most tanks, but Sigma has no real way to stop a lot of damage coming at him other than his very weak shield and his little eat ability, but those are not going to stop most heroes. Reinhardt can also be very strong versus Sigma, being able to block his rock throw and then ignore his eat ability, as well as just walk past his shield to smack him with your hammer. For DPS, sustained damage like Soldier, Sojourn, and Cassidy are all great at melting Sigma before he can really do anything. Other heroes like Widowmaker and Hanzo that can outrange him, and flying heroes are also really great against him. For supports, he doesn't have any huge counters from supports, but Baptiste and Zenyatta will be able to melt his shield as well as get free damage on him most of the time. Winston is very easy to counter. So many different heroes can easily shut down Winston if played correctly. For the tanks, D.Va is a great skill counter, as you can boop him away when he jumps at your team with your boosters, and you can melt him down with your primary fire and rockets. Roadhog can be another great counter versus Winston if you're playing defensively and you're looking to hook him out of his jumps, and Roadhog's ultimate completely shreds Winston ultimate as well and can be a super, super good counter. Heroes like Torbjorn and Reaper are great versus Winston, as they can easily burst him down with their shotguns. Super mobile heroes like Tracer, Soldier, and the flying heroes can easily counter Winston as well, just by outranging him and not getting anywhere near him. Junkrat is an okay counter to Winston with his traps and big burst damage, and Bastion is an insane counter to Winston. If Winston jumps into your team, simply transform and then melt him down while he has no movement ability. For your supports, any support that is mobile enough just to run away from him or sustain his damage is going to be great. Wrecking Ball is similar to Winston, except for he's a bit more mobile and a little harder to kill. Roadhog is a great counter to Ball, being able to lock him down and kill him quickly. D.Va is another great counter, being able to chase him constantly, doing good damage, and being able to save your teammates whenever he slams them. For your DPS, anyone who can sustain and has great mobility is awesome versus Ball. Ball players want to displace you and push you towards his team, then finish you off. So if you're playing Tracer, Sojourn, Genji, or any of the flying heroes, you can very easily escape what he's trying to do. Sombra is another great counter to Ball with her hack, being able to easily pull him out of his quick movement and easily burst him down with her team. For supports, anyone who can easily outmaneuver him should very easily win. Now, you really don't want to be playing heroes like Ana, Zenyatta against Wrecking Ball, as he is going to easily take advantage of your low mobility and burst you down, as well as just push you around. The last on our list is Zarya. Zarya deals insane damage and is just a DPS in the tank category, kind of similar to Roadhog. Speaking of Roadhog, Zarya is hard countered by Roadhog. A simple hook can completely shut down a high charge Zarya that is giving you trouble. All you have to do is play near your team, hook the enemy Zarya, and pull her into your team so that you and your teammates can finish her off. Another great counter is Orisa, with being able to ignore the high damage that Zarya does and dealing a ton of damage to her right back. For DPS, any high burst damage heroes will do great versus Zarya. Heroes like Hanzo, Ashe, Widowmaker, and Sojourn are all really good at bursting Zarya down when she has a cooldown between her bubbles. Other good DPS are Reaper and the two flying heroes that can outrange her pretty easily. For supports, you really want a defensive ultimate like Zenyatta or Lucio so that you can counter her grab. Other supports that are great against her are going to be Baptiste and Kiriko, where they can use their immortality whenever grab goes down. And that is all I have for you guys. Thank you all for watching, and if I missed anything, make sure you tell me in the comments below. Make sure that you check out our Overwatch 2 website. It is constantly being updated with new guides on every single hero, so make sure that you check out the website link right now in the description or go to GameLeap.com and sign up today.